When Mother's Day means celebrating your mom, your wife, maybe even your daughter as a new mom, trust 1-800-Flowers to help you celebrate every important woman in your life. With double blooms from 1-800-Flowers, order 1 dozen roses and get another dozen for free. It's a simple way to give beautifully, with colorful blooms that make Mother's Day feel meaningful. For every mom you're celebrating, order with confidence and get double blooms at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Cinco de Mayo is my favorite day of the year. I don't even mind telling you that. In fact, you know what? Let me give myself a little bit of music to use here. Yes. Cinco de Mayo. People ask me sometimes, hey, why is Cinco de Mayo such a good holiday for you? Why do you like it so much? Let me tell you. Number one, Cinco de Mayo is a holiday that has no gifts that are expected. No gift-giving expectations or pressure whatsoever. I like holidays that are centered around the food. Also, part of the reason that I like Thanksgiving. So Cinco de Mayo is like a nice little bridge between Thanksgivings. Enjoy it today, everybody. I've actually learned a fair bit about Cinco de Mayo. Before I get into the content for today, appease me just a little bit. Get my music back up here. There it is. They asked 1,000 people. Only 2 of them had never had a taco. Only 2. That's a very compelling number. People that have had a taco. Do you prefer hard shell or soft shell? It's a pretty big deal that Cinco de Mayo falls on a Taco Tuesday this year. I'll tell you, it was close. 53% prefer the soft shell taco. Favorite topping to put on a taco? The number 1 response was cheese. The least favorable topping, onions. Now, it's not just about the food. I'm going to recommend you go on one of the apps tonight and find a good Mexican restaurant that's doing a good deal and get yourself a burrito or a chimichanga, some tacos, or what have you. You could definitely do that. But also keep in mind the drinks as well. When it comes to drinks, and you ask people, hey, what kind of a cocktail do you want on Cinco de Mayo? Not really a surprise here, but the vast majority said a margarita. You know, when you ask 100 people, only 6 of them said they are not a fan of a margarita. That, again, a very compelling number. 94% like the margs. Do you like them frozen, though, or on ice? Well, 67% prefer their margaritas frozen. 33% prefer them on the rocks. However you're celebrating Cinco de Mayo today, I hope you have a great one. I don't know why my Mexican hat dance keeps dipping out on me here, but I love this day. Oh, and by the way, one other thing. If you are in the Southern Ontario GTHA area today, Cinco de Mayo, I am going to be filling in this afternoon on the Drive Home show on Z1035. So wherever you are in the world, you can listen by telling your smart speaker to play Z1035. And you can listen on the radio if you are in the GTA today. All right, now let's get into it. Want to start off by saying thank you to everybody who not only listened to, but also reached out about yesterday's bonus episode of Scott Fox After 9. As a thank you to everybody who made a donation to the Blizzard family GoFundMe, I said that if we got above the target before the weekend was over, I would release the best of Dave. And I put out a 20-minute podcast episode yesterday. It was all archived stuff from some of it going back almost 20 years when Dave and I used to do morning radio together. I listened back to it too, and man, some of that stuff was hilarious. Just so you know, I could have done a few hours of the best of Dave, and I will when he dies. But I'm kidding. I hope that doesn't happen. But I will. I definitely have more, and I'll save that for the right occasion. It's a little weird to play one of my competitors in my podcast, but I did that throwing all protocol out the window just because I wanted to help his family try and raise raise the money they need for him to get down to the States and get his daughter, 3-year-old little Ellie, the care that she needs as she battles cancer. And again, I am still trying to wrap my mind around saying 3-year-old and cancer in the same sentence, but here we are. Thank you again to everybody who donated. If you haven't already, the link is in previous episodes of the pod from the last few days. Now I'm going to get into today's content. Have you been following the story of this ship that's out in the Atlantic right now, where a number of people have caught the hantavirus? I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not entirely familiar with hantavirus, but this ship has got 150 people on it, including 4 Canadians, and right now they are just sort of adrift. 3 passengers have died. 3 more have been left seriously ill after this outbreak of a rare hantavirus. The MV Hondius was on a polar cruise from Argentina to Antarctica. I didn't even know you could do that as a cruise itinerary, but here we are. The World Health Organization says the ship's operator reported the deaths and illnesses, but Cape Verde is not allowing the ship to dock. 2 sick crew members and 1 person who died are still on the boat. Here is one of the passengers who's on board. He made this video and then posted it.
I normally wouldn't make a video like this, but I feel like I need to say something, so I wrote a few things down. I am currently on board the MV Hondius, and what's happening right now is very real for all of us here. We're not just a story. We're not just headlines. We're people with families, with lives, with people waiting for us at home. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's the hardest part. All we want right now is to feel safe, to have clarity, and to get home. So if you're seeing coverage about this, just remember that there are real people behind it, and that this isn't something happening somewhere far away. It's happening to us right now. I'll share more when I can, but for now, I just ask for your kindness and understanding.
Yeah, I feel bad for that passenger and everybody who's on. What's the next move? You've got a cruise ship where you know you've got a virus that is likely spreading from person to person, even though apparently that's fairly unlikely with this hantavirus. Usually it is spread through rodent droppings and rodent urine. Yikes. Okay, I don't know how a person caught that or how rodents might have gotten on this ship, but either way, now the ship is out there. Some people have died. Others are sick. The authorities don't want to let the ship dock because there's people on there who might be sick. What do you do if you're one of the passengers who's on that ship and not sick? I don't know. I mean, that's a bizarre situation, but hopefully they figure it out. I was listening to that guy talk there, and yikes, that does sound terrible. Today, Prime Minister Carney is introducing a new Governor General. Oh, this will be good. I checked FanDuel. Don't worry, it's not on there yet. I guess we're not betting on these things. The Prime Minister is going to announce who is going to be in the vice-regal position for the next 5 years as the King's representative in Canada. No leaks on this, although the rumor is that the Prime Minister is going to appoint a woman to the role once again. This time, we got to get this right. Governor General Mary Simon there, she certainly loved that role. Man, did she ever spend a lot of taxpayer dollars. And when you're done being Governor General, by the way, you still get salary, you get staff and an expense account, basically for life. It is incredible how lucrative it is to be the King's representative in Canada. We're still paying for previous governors general, and now we get a new one today. This person's got to speak French, right? I think we all agree the Governor General has got to be able to address Canadians in both official languages. And that was part of the knock on Mary Simon. Not only was she high-flying and jet-setting and money-spending, she couldn't speak French. Do you know that we, the taxpayers, spent $50,000, 50 grand, trying to teach Governor General Mary Simon French, and she still can't learn it? I'm using Babbel. I got like an $85 membership, and I'm already further ahead than Mary Simon. After $50,000 in French lessons, she still cannot speak French. She's got to go. In fact, I'm not entirely convinced we need a governor general anymore. It's very, very different from the way things were back in the day. You know, back before we had instant digital communication, maybe we needed a governor general because if a law got passed, it was not necessarily practical to have the text of that law driven out to the Atlantic and then sailed across the Atlantic over to the UK, signed by the king, and then make the return trip. It made more sense to have a representative here. Frankly, when money's tight here in Canada, I don't know why the king can't just sign his own laws. Why does the king need a representative in Canada? Why can't the king do it? What's he got going on all day? It would save us hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in salary, and it would save us in the travel and all of the other things. Something to think about when we're going to be inevitably talking about reform in how our government structure works. Maybe it is time to do away with the governor general. But either way, the one that is going to be announced today, I wish them luck. It's more or less a ceremonial position. Definitely costs the taxpayers a lot, but here we are. We're going ahead at least one more time. The man behind the petition to force a fall referendum question on Alberta leaving Canada says he has submitted 302,000 signatures to Elections Alberta. His name is Mitch Sylvester. He called Monday a historic day as he delivered more than enough paperwork to the office in Edmonton. He says campaigning for months wasn't easy. 7,000 volunteer canvassers persevered through criticism, abuse, and tough weather. Verification of the signatures remains on hold pending a judge's ruling on a constitutional challenge by some Alberta First Nations. But if the court allows this to go through, now there will certainly be a question on the Alberta referendum this coming fall about whether or not Alberta should remain part of Canada. 302,000 signatures is a compelling number. If I'm being honest, that is a staggering number. I really don't want to see Alberta leave Canada, but frankly, when there's 302,000 people that are willing to put their name on the line already before the campaigning officially begins, I got to think that that is probably not good news. Last night in the OHL, Ontario Hockey League, Eastern Conference Final, the game at TD Coliseum in Brantford. The Brantford Bulldogs, who at one point had a 3-1 series lead, taking on the Barrie Colts. Last night, Barrie went into Brantford and spanked the Bulldogs 5-0. That means Barrie is going on to the OHL Championship. They're going to take on the Kitchener Rangers, who won in the West. The reason I'm bringing that up is because of the post-game news conference. Barrie Colts, they should have been celebrating. This is a big win, historic. They came from behind. They did it in enemy territory. And how do they conduct themselves in the post-game news conference? Well, they decided to pull what some would call a Marshawn Lynch.
Coach, words probably escape you after that one. Maybe you can try your best.
No one cares. Work harder.
Okay, Sean, big moment for you, a goal tonight. Hostile environment. What can you say about the way your goaltender played in that one?
No one cares. Work harder.
Can you just contrast what you must have been feeling 6 days ago leaving the arena, losing 6-1, and what you're feeling now?
Yeah, it's a good question. No one cares. Work harder. Really good. No one cares. Work harder.
No one cares. Work harder. Yeah, no one cares. Work harder.
That'll conclude the Barrie Colts portion of tonight's postgame.
What do you think of that? That was their post-game news conference. That was a chance to be very classy in winning. It was a chance to congratulate the other team for a great series. It was a chance to make a statement before going into the championship series and possibly onto the Memorial Cup. Nope. They decided they were going to do the too cool for school thing. Nobody cares. Work harder. That's what they said. I heard from no shortage of people that live in Brantford and are fans of the Brantford Bulldogs on my radio show today on Light 92.1. I can tell you, people in Brantford do not like that messaging from the Barrie Colts at all. In fact, it's kind of amazing. Barrie has, in a way, galvanized Brantford supporters to cheer for the Kitchener Rangers, hoping that the Rangers are going to hand it to Barrie after they acted like that in the media room at TD Coliseum last night. Barrie versus Kitchener for the OHL Championship. I've got some audio from the Ontario Leader of the Opposition coming up in just a sec. Before I get to that, possibly one of the most heinous and ridiculous crimes I've ever had to report. 44-year-old man has been charged with stealing the ceremonial gong from a cancer center in Kitchener, Ontario. Waterloo Regional Police say they were called to a Midtown hospital on Monday about the theft, believed to have taken place a little more than a week ago. Gongs and bells are often used by patients in hospital cancer wards to mark the completion of their cancer treatment. When you ring the gong, it means you're done your treatment. Police say the accused has been charged with theft under $5,000. Investigators say they are still looking for the missing gong. Imagine that, being such a low-life son of a bitch that you would go into a cancer center and steal the gong that people ring when they've completed their chemo or radiation or whatever type of cancer treatment they're undergoing. They stole the gong. Police have caught this person. Charges relatively minor. Theft under is not necessarily a serious crime. Despite that, I hope whatever judge gets a hold of this case absolutely lambastes this suspect and sends a message that, you know what? Doesn't matter if it's worth less than $5,000. Doesn't matter if there was a specific personalized victim here. You still stole something from a cancer center, and that gong is sacred. I hope this person does jail time for this. That is completely preposterous and a nasty stain on society. Yesterday, the official leader of the opposition in Ontario, the opposition is the New Democrats, and the opposition leader is Marit Stiles. She was giving a news conference outside Queen's Park, and she said something that, frankly, I find completely outrageous. Listen to Marit.
But listen, don't worry about it, Doug, because when I'm premier, I'm going to call a public inquiry into all of this, and we're going to get our hands on all of that. And you know what? Maybe you won't get another mandate because you'll be in prison, Doug. Yeah.
What?
I think he's like,
what?
I think that when we call a public inquiry, which is what it took to get to the bottom of some of the questions around other governments, I think it's a lot of terrible stuff is going to come out. Why is the Premier hiding all of this information from the people of Ontario? Why doesn't he want anybody to know what's on his phone? Because there's dirty dealings around the Greenbelt. The RCMP is investigating him, and I would be very surprised if at the end of this, there might very well be charges laid. Absolutely. I mean, look, other governments have had people end up behind bars for less than this.
Okay, that just goes to show that the Ontario New Democrats are not a serious party and Marit Stiles is not a serious leader. Regardless of how you personally feel about the government or the premier, you can't say something like that. He may be going to prison. When I take over as premier, there's going to be a public inquiry. He may go to jail. Get out of here, Marit Stiles. You know that is perfectly inappropriate to say. If you have some evidence, then by all means, present it. Go ahead and lay it out for the people. Show us exactly why you think there could possibly be criminal charges. To just throw out a whole bunch of innuendo at a sitting premier, again, regardless of how you feel about Doug Ford, that was completely preposterous of her to even suggest that. Sounded very Trumpy, didn't it? Well, the NDP, far left there, and how many people on the far left have been critical of Donald Trump for going after his political opponents, for threatening legal action or charges against his political opponent? Will you now call out the NDP for that outrageous comment? He might be in jail? Thank God the media realized the second it came out of her lips, oh my God, she just went there. They were shocked. There should be an unequivocal apology in public from the NDP opposition leader Marit Stiles to Premier Doug Ford in the legislature and privately. She owes an apology. Again, I know that there's a lot of people who are right pissed off at Doug Ford right now, and frankly, he brought a lot of that on himself. But you can't make a comment like that. You can't speculate like that, especially if you're not going to bring any receipts. Imagine that. Making a statement like that, like the sitting premier could be arrested imminently. What a joke. That is not good politics. She will never be the premier of Ontario, just so everyone's clear. If it wasn't clear before she made that comment, it should be clear now. And frankly, if she's that unserious, it's time for the NDP to find themselves a new leader, because that is not what a responsible leader would say, especially with no evidence, no receipts. She brought nothing to the table, just put it out there to try and get some clicks, and frankly, that's disgusting.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Moving on. I've got a lot. Actually, you know what? Before I get to some of the committee audio from yesterday, which was wild, by the way, you're going to have a good time when you're listening to that. Doug Ford did do a news conference yesterday. Let's just tap into this for a couple of seconds. I don't know if he's saying anything new or anything controversial, but yeah, he usually does.
Premier Richard Southern, 680 News Radio. You assured Ontarians that as soon as you sold that near $30 million Challenger jet, that you would make all the documents pertaining to its purchase and sale public to be transparent with how much was spent. It's been almost 2 weeks since the sale. We still haven't seen the documents. Premier, where are they, and will you commit to releasing them today?
Richard, of course we'll release them because we sold it for the same amount that we paid for. So that's all going to be transparent. But what we're doing, we're focusing on making sure that we create jobs and drive the economy. We've seen over $222 billion of investment since we've came in office. And it's very simple. We've created the environment and conditions for companies to come here. It's so competitive out there, folks, but when you have the talent pool we have here, when you've cut red tape by over $1.3 billion, it makes life a lot easier for companies to make that decision. And that's why Sanofi is investing here in Toronto. But I appreciate your investment from Sanofi.
That is a classic distraction technique from the politician. Blow off the question and then get to what you want to talk about. I don't know. I guess there was some company, Sanofi, I think he said, expanding their operations, or I don't know. I really also don't know that the Premier has done everything he can do to create the business conditions for businesses to want to set up in Ontario. I'd love to think that that's true, but frankly, all of the financial data that I see doesn't look very good right now.
But for my follow-up, Premier, can you confirm that you flew on the OPP private jet this weekend to Michigan to accept that honorary doctorate? And if so, do you think that was a good use of Ontario taxpayer dollars, sir?
Yeah, well, I don't discuss OPP.
You know, I'm not even going to get to that answer. That's a stupid question. Listen, Doug Ford tried to buy a jet. There was massive public backlash. He returned the jet. He says they sold it for what they paid for it, and it's a wash. The guy still needs to get around. Over the weekend, he was down in Michigan. Okay, well, from Queen's Park to Detroit, that's going to be about a 4-hour drive, depending on how bad the wait is at the border. If he can fly and get there in an hour and back in an hour, that's perfectly reasonable. That's a no-brainer. If he and his staff are going to fly down to Michigan for that, God love them. No problem at all. The OPP plane, that's part of why the OPP has a plane to move around the Premier and dignitaries. I didn't think I'd be saying this, but I think it's time to move on from the jet thing. He says he's going to produce the receipts. Let's see the receipts and make sure the maths, and then we got to move on. The guy does have to get around, for God's sake. I mean, he is the Premier, and this is a massive province. Let's see if they were interested in asking anything else that might be a little more relevant to your life.
Hi, Premier Lorenda Redikoff with CBC News. It's been a week and a half since those comments to MPP Stephanie Smythe. Apparently, you did apologize to her privately a few days later. You had a chance today since the legislature is back. Why didn't you publicly apologize to her?
Well, Stephanie and I have known each other for probably 16 years, and we've had our back and forth for many times. But again, we just look forward to hopefully working together collaboratively and growing the economy. So that's what we're going to focus on. But thank you for the question.
Okay, so not really any effect to your life, but that's following up on the comments that Doug Ford made last week. If you didn't hear them, I did a pod on that, and you're welcome to go back and listen. I said that the Premier should apologize after that comment. He did. Seems like he's trying to undo some of the damage that's been done over the last number of weeks and months. So it seems like the premier is trying to press reset here and get back on track, which is exactly what we need. There's a lot of things going on, and the debt and the deficit in Ontario in particular is getting crazy. Is there anything in this, though, that might be useful for the taxpayers? Let me just try one more question.
A bill that you and the other premiers pushed for that would make it tougher for repeat offenders to get bail still hasn't passed through Parliament. It was supported by the Liberals and the Conservatives, but it's still undergoing Senate review. So are you frustrated with how long is it taking for this bill to become law?
Thank you for that. I'm extremely frustrated. This has been over a year now. We sat around the table with all the premiers saying that we have to change bail reform. We led the charge here in Ontario, and all premiers, all 13 of us, signed off with the Prime Minister sitting there. They're dragging their feet. People are fed up with the home invasions, the cars being stolen. They're fed up with not feeling safe when they go outside, even though the mayor has increased police officers all the way back to the same level it was when Rob was mayor. So I want to thank the mayor for putting the resources and the finances towards our police. I think Mary increased it by over 600 police officers and continuing to invest in our great police.
Okay, there we go. We finally got one. Hey, that's a fine point there from Doug Ford, but frankly, it invites another question. The question was about trying to keep violent repeat offenders behind bars. This is another failure of Mark Carney. One of the things that people are very critical of the Prime Minister about is he's had a year and hasn't done anything to get the deal worked out with the Americans or to get these nation-building projects off the ground and get shovels in them. Nothing in a year. Let's not forget, he's also failed on the crime and punishment issue as well. A year ago, everybody agreed. The Conservatives offered to help them pass it, and they still haven't passed it. There's no obstruction here. The opposition is not in the way. Carney's got a majority government now, for better or worse. Where's the bail reform? Nothing we were promised a year ago has actually happened. It has turned out to be one of the biggest bait and switches in history. The question that invites is, Doug, why did you support this Prime Minister? You said it yourself a minute ago. A year you've been waiting. You all agreed a year ago to do this, and it's still not done. This is something that would have been done probably on day one with a Prime Minister Poilievre. Kind of makes you wonder again, why did Doug Ford not support the Conservatives in the last election? Why did he back Mark Carney and the Liberals? I don't know, but I wonder if he regrets that. Has anybody asked him that? What's his answer on that? By the way, speaking of crime and punishment, yesterday the Justice Committee was meeting, and it went the way a lot of committee hearings are going lately. Listen to this.
So let's take a look at mandatory minimum penalties that currently exist in the criminal code for impaired care and control operation of a conveyance. That's the term they use now instead of vehicle. We have mandatory minimum penalties in terms of fines, and where there is subsequent convictions, actual jail. Again, name one accused who have not used an argument. Oh, Your Honor, I can't go to jail. I'm the breadwinner of the family. My family is going to suffer. I'm going to lose my job. I can't go to jail for 90 days on my third, fourth, or fifth impaired because I haven't got the message yet. I want that door to be closed as tight as possible, and I think we should be doing the same thing as legislators because Pandora's box is wide open on this issue. So to you, Ms. Burt, Mr. Taylor, Ms. Levman, Ms. Seguin, can you name one particular case where there has been a successful challenge to the mandatory minimum penalty where financial hardship in and of itself constituted cruel and unusual punishment? Can you name one case? I certainly can't.
Thank you for the question. No, we wouldn't have that information at our fingertips at the moment.
It's getting a little hot there in the committee meetings because the Conservatives are getting frustrated. You know, committee, as much of a circus as it was for a while, that did usually get some good conversation happening. But since the Liberals have gotten a majority government, they're using that to shut down discussion. And I thought what we just heard was a fairly thoughtful discussion. The voice you heard was Larry Brock. He is the member of parliament for Brantford Six Nations. He is a former Crown prosecutor. He knows what he's talking about. He's asking why we're bothering to debate mandatory minimum sentences and whether or not they should not apply if they could cause financial hardship. And you heard Larry's argument. Okay, well, what does the government think about that? I'll tell you what, they don't think very much of it because they're going to shut down this committee hearing as well. Listen to this.
Looked at the rules of practice and procedure. I am within my rights, and it's within the rules that I can rule it out of scope prior to it being voted on. So that is what I'm doing with respect to CPC 21.
Crazy. They've ruled that it was out of scope. Okay, I don't understand how that was out of scope. To me, that sounded perfectly within scope, considering the discussion. We are not getting what we're paying for. We are supposed to go to bed at night knowing that our government is running like a well-oiled machine. They are collaborating. They are working together. They are doing the people's work. They are spending our money responsibly and making thoughtful, pragmatic decisions for the future of our country. They're not. It couldn't be any more obvious. That's what they're doing. They're obstructing everything. Anything they don't want the public to know, they're going to put that committee hearing into camera, in-camera session. That means not only will we not know what was discussed, there's no official transcript of it either. They are shutting down discussion on too many things that are too important. Hey, let me circle back. I just talked about this a few minutes ago. It's been a year and nothing has been done about bail reform and crime and punishment. A year and nothing is done. We can get back to talking about how nothing was done on the infrastructure front, the nation building projects front, the home building front, the deficit fighting, all of it. Nothing has been done for a year, except Ukraine got a hell of a lot of money and we have wasted a ton of money on silly things, as far as I'm concerned, in my estimation. The stuff that Canadians seem to want done isn't done. Hey, you know what? Let's go to another committee hearing. This is Sandra Kobena, the member of parliament for Newmarket Aurora, talking to the governor of the Bank of Canada. This is wild.
Moving on from that, I do have a question for the governor, Mr. Macklem. We know that the government sovereign wealth fund was not included in the debt projections on the spring economic update.
Sorry, I missed what you said.
The sovereign wealth fund.
Oh, the sovereign wealth fund.
So it was not included in the spring economic update, despite the announcement made by the Prime Minister that it would be funded by $25 billion of debt. Just wondering if you were consulted on the wealth fund.
No.
No! That son of a bitch, Tiff Macklem, actually told the truth. No, I wasn't consulted. So Mark Carney pulls out this back of a napkin plan to create a $25 billion sovereign wealth fund. He's going to finance it with borrowed money that will belong to the tax dollar or to the taxpayers. He's going to borrow taxpayer money to fund this. And there's really no clear mandate or what they're going to do, who they're going to be backing, what the criteria is, like nothing. This is debt-financed sovereign debt fund. It's not a wealth fund, not by any means. Now the Bank of Canada governor wasn't even consulted, and there's talk that the Prime Minister may use the Canada Pension Plan and or the Quebec Pension Plan to try and back it. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. By the way, this sovereign wealth fund is not something that all parties on the left agree on. The NDP has already come out and said that this is not a good idea. Now the Green Party is also weighing in. Here's their leader, Elizabeth May.
It's an unusual moment, and I think it may be, if my memory serves, the first time I voted with the Conservatives on one of their Opposition Day motions. They're called Supply Days. So as you may have heard in the comments that Green Party made following the release of the spring economic statement, we are underwhelmed by the so-called Canada Strong Fund. The Conservative Party Opposition Day motion, which will be voted on later today, much of the verbiage makes me uncomfortable. I wouldn't vote for every line in their preamble. But the bottom line is this, that it isn't a sovereign wealth fund. What's being proposed is dressed up to maybe remind voters of what's done in Norway, where they set aside oil revenue and put it in a fund, for basically a rainy day fund, which means that Norway has a real sovereign wealth fund. What we do know is that it's being created by $25 billion of new debt, which could so much better be spent on things that Canadians need far more. This isn't really a sovereign wealth fund, but if we want to know where the wealth is, we could, for instance, look at the Canada Pension Plan funds, $80 billion controlled by the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, which under its legislation must only invest in things that have maximum return on investment, which means Canadian pension dollars are mostly invested outside of Canada. That's outrageous. And much in the United States, outrageous. Why don't we repatriate our own pension dollars? Why don't we put in a wealth tax? Why don't we put back a financial transaction tax? Put that money as the basis of a true sovereign wealth fund.
Not 100% sure what exactly she's advocating for, but to hear the Green Party say something like, we're going to vote with the Conservatives, opposing the government on something, that doesn't happen every day. Very, very interesting to see where that is going here. I do have to move on, though. I'm getting a little low on time. Let's circle back to that committee on finance and monetary policy. That son of a bitch, Tiff Macklem, governor of the Bank of Canada, facing another question at a committee hearing yesterday.
Do you think, would you agree that affordability isn't the best it's been in a decade?
Well, look, I think affordability has been affected really by two things. Certainly coming out of the pandemic, there was a burst of inflation. We got inflation back down, but price levels remain higher, and that really highlights sort of the long tail that high inflation has. The other part of it is incomes, and if you want to improve affordability, we're not going to lower all prices. That'll really weaken the economy. No one's going to like that. We're going to keep inflation low and stable. If you want to improve affordability, you really need to grow incomes, and that comes down to growing productivity, getting the economy working.
Just one more time, just a yes or no on that. Do you think affordability is the best it's been in a decade? Today's affordability.
I think there's an affordability challenge in this country. I'm not going to put a time frame on it, 5 years, 10 years. There's a clear affordability challenge in this country, no question.
When the Liberal members of Parliament stand up and try and claim affordability is the best it's ever been, and making outrageous statements like that, even the governor of the Bank of Canada does not agree with that. Things are not good here right now, and the sooner we acknowledge that, the sooner we can deal with the problem. But we've got to acknowledge that things are not good. It can't be a political spin to just run out every time there's a TV camera around and say things are going great, because Canadians know that's not true. That's not their lived experience. The new parliamentary budget officer yesterday in a committee hearing. Listen to this.
Federal debt per Canadian will rise from $33,592 this year to $38,295 5 years from now. Per the spring update, federal debt charges per Canadian per year, the interest cost of that debt, will rise from $1,409 to $1,901. Separate from the sustainability question, I'll turn to the government priorities. In the update, its own update, it speaks to key themes raised in November of 2025 in the budget: productivity, housing, defense, and major projects. The spring update provides some metrics on progress, but few critical paths, few mention of risks, and specific objectives. The update instead introduced a range of new and rather undefined priorities, strategies, and general objectives that similarly would benefit from greater accountability, details on governance, and other aspects of planning that would inform Parliament as to what results the government is targeting for that spending. The Canada Strong Fund is a leading example from that list.
Okay, those are the comments from the newly appointed parliamentary budget officer, Annette Ryan. Just some top line numbers, just something to chew about in your head while you get some time today. We have to acknowledge that things aren't good. That's the only way we can start to make things better. You have to recognize how low we've sunk here. And there's way too many people, whether it be because of pride, they're just not informed or what have you. They don't want to acknowledge that things are not good for the vast majority of Canadians, especially the middle class. One of my favorite things to do right now, and I'm probably going to wrap it up after this, is watch committee testimony where the immigration minister, Lena Diab, is being questioned. And my favorite person to question her is Michelle Rempel-Garner, the conservative critic on immigration. Well, friends, make some popcorn. Here is about 2 minutes of the immigration minister being questioned by Michelle Rempel-Garner in committee yesterday.
Okay, and then also, I'm just wondering, just to be clear, you said that 14% of the cases of fraud that were identified by the Auditor General, so that's by my math about 21,400 people, they claimed asylum. Is that correct?
14% of the 153. That's correct.
Do you know what the costs to taxpayers were in terms of providing social services to people who were let into the country potentially fraudulently, who then went on to make asylum claims? Have you done that analysis?
That's exactly why we brought C12 in order to curb that practice, because that is not the way to gain entry to Canada's immigration system.
But you still don't know where these people are, right? And you still don't know if they've left the country.
Those that have put in asylum claims, Canada knows who they are.
Okay, so
there's
I guess,
claims before the. Yeah.
I guess this is my question. There's a lot of gaps in the system, and yet your government is on track to issue 215,000 roughly new permits between foreign students and temporary foreign workers. Why are you letting in so many more temporary foreign laborers when you don't have a way to track people whose permits might have expired? Like, why are you doing that?
I've traveled across the country. Businesses, communities in all parts of the country are
but what about
need
Canadian
temporary
kids?
workers for many different sectors in our.
I'm just going to pause for a second. Do you believe that? Do you believe that this immigration minister has traveled the country and talked to an overwhelming amount of businesses that claim they need temporary foreign workers? Is it that they need temporary foreign workers, or that they want workers that they can pay less, that they can exploit, that they can take advantage of? Is it that they don't want to employ Canadians? Is that what it is? Is that what's going on? Or do you actually believe that all of these businesses just cannot continue unless we import foreign workers from the third world? Do you believe that? Because that does not pass the smell test for me. In order to get a temporary foreign worker, you're supposed to have exhausted all options to find a Canadian willing to do that job. These companies applying to bring in temporary foreign workers are actually going to submit the affidavit saying, yeah, we can't find any. Can't find any, so we need a temporary foreign worker, a TFW. I just don't believe that. To me, that doesn't pass the smell test.
Our economy, and we do have a great system. We know people who are coming in, they are security cleared. We know where they're working.
I guess I'm just wondering, if you can't track if people who aren't supposed to be here can leave, why you would be issuing new permits and potentially taking away jobs from Canadian youth in the middle of a jobs crisis. But I digress. This is pretty bad, right? Like, even a lot of folks in the media brought out that this was pretty bad. Has the Prime Minister called you at all to discuss maybe speeding up the implementation of some of these things, given that you're issuing over 200,000 new permits? Like, has he called you into his office and said, what the heck?
I have constant meetings with the Prime Minister when we develop our immigration levels plan that was tabled November 5th. And we have discussions all the time. I see the Prime Minister on a weekly basis.
Did he talk to you specifically about the AG report and implementing it fast, fixes faster?
Well, that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, but did he meet with you? Has he specifically asked you to do that?
As I said, I meet with the Prime Minister. We meet weekly.
Okay, so he has full confidence in you, is what you're saying.
I have confidence in Canadians, and I believe Canadians have confidence in this government and our work that we were doing.
Thank you, Ms. Rempel-Garner.
This government is about to issue another 215,000 permits for foreign students and temporary foreign workers. Why are we letting all these people in? I don't know. Again, if you didn't get a chance to hear it, there were 2 episodes yesterday. A regular episode and the best of Dave. That was me making good. I said that if the Blizzard family fundraiser hit its target on GoFundMe, I would put out some of the old classic audio from Dave and I when we were on the radio together way back in the early 2000s. It's about 20 minutes long. It's good for a laugh. A couple of different segments in there are great. Check it out if you haven't already, or the regular episode that I did. But either way, there were 2. And thank you for listening to this one as well, my friends. I hope you have a fantastic day. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Happy National Teachers Day. And today is also National Red Dress Day, remembering and honoring the victims that were missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Friends, I'll catch you right back here with more in less than 24 hours, and I leave you today with the great sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now.